Okay, guys. I think we're live here. Unfortunately, I apparently did not have my mic on for a 25-minute video. I was 25 minutes in. I probably had about 7 minutes left ish. Related to campaign. Just basically what this video is going to be about. I'm a little disheartened now, but we will get back on track here. So this video is going to be about Citizens United, Democrats pandering to Citizens United, and why why this is so problematic. Bear with me because this is going to be rough because I just spent 25 minutes. I did a really good job the last video, so I'm going to try to recapture that energy, rekindle it. So let's talk about what Citizens United is, talk about what McCutcheon versus Maryland or McCutcheon versus FEC is, and what Buckley v. Vallejo is. So basically, Citizens United was the decision that made it so corporations could funnel money through super PACs and more anonymously, and do it at almost an unlimited thing. But the real case back in the day that set this all into motion and set the ability for Citizens United to be a thing was Buckley v. Vallejo, which then basically equated money to speech and made it harder to cap spending on money as speech. So Buckley v. Vallejo and the money as speech precedent that was set there is egregious because I'll explain my theory of why all these can be overturned without a constitutional amendment. But so then McCutcheon versus FEC is really a case that is very underrated. It's a case that's highly underrated because what McCutcheon did, it was kind of like a sister case to Citizens United. It came out around the same time. It made it so that you could spend money, that there was no aggregate limit. So previously there was an aggregate limit that made it so that you could only spend, let's say, I think it was maybe $20,000 total between all of your expenditures. But now without McCutcheon, you can just give money to a bunch of places. And so what's problematic about this is that if you give money to one place and then you give money to another place, they can then funnel it to one person. Or if you give money to one this and then one that and then one that, you can buy a whole party essentially if you give enough money out, kind of like what Mike Bloomberg is doing. You can give money to a bunch of different places, and that will never count as having a limit. So then you're able to buy influence that way. And then also, speaking of Bloomberg, Buckley v. Vallejo basically also did away with caps on individual expenditures. So essentially, Buckley v. Vallejo is why Bloomberg can spend $400 million on ads, carpet bomb the airway, and suppress speech. So I'm going to try to get through this video a little bit quicker because I'm sorry I ran through this already 25 minutes. It was a really good video, but I'm going to try to get everything in here really quick because I'm a little disheartened, but let's keep this rolling. So essentially, let's pull up a video of Pete Buttigieg and let's discuss how Democrats have been pandering to Citizens United. We'll talk about it, okay? So let me pull this up quick.
Actually make something.
Come on. Maybe.
The question is, how are we going to break the logjam and actually make something happen? And that is going to require a different level of political will. It's going to require democratic reform so that dollars can't outvote people. And by the way, if the only way that we can establish as a matter of American constitutional law that a corporation is different than a person and that spending money to influence an election is different than speech, if the only way we can clear that up is with a constitutional amendment to reverse Citizens United, then that's what we're going to have to do, because otherwise we see the consequences.
So here we see Pete Buttigieg commonly, as Democrats commonly do, pandering to one sec. I gotta make sure my mic's on again. Okay. We see Pete Buttigieg there pandering to the Democratic base because the Democrats have in general pretended as if though Citizens United has hurt them so much. But in reality, Citizens United is still allowed the corporate interests that fund the Democratic Party to become even more influential, which is bad, which is awful. But then you see Pete Buttigieg pandering to the base, saying us, because he knows that the Democratic base, at least in theory, doesn't want Citizens United to be a thing. So he says, oh, we got to get rid of Citizens United, but then and these fossil fuel industries are, and their executives are influencing the elections. Yet at the same time, he is accepting money from healthcare executives, and when after accepting this money, he changed his position on universal healthcare, because he at one point was calling Medicare for All the compromise position, but now he calls it just like crazy or radical or whatever. But essentially, Pete Buttigieg is getting money from these people, like many other Democratic candidates are, claiming that they are not claiming that they are different than the Republicans. And the thing is that Democrats pander to being against Citizens United because it's in vogue, because anti-corruption is in vogue. Yet this is in name only, because you'll see Pete Buttigieg going to wine caves with wealthy donors that are able to give large expenditures and to circumvent aggregate limits and to wield their influence on the Democratic Party. He will go and he will talk to these people in wine caves and then give them undue influence, and he'll have them on speed dial when he doesn't have the millions, the masses of people. You won't see us, the working class people, in wine caves talking about things with Pete Buttigieg and getting able to sway his influence with our hundreds of $millions of potential contributions. And this is just what it's been. The Democratic Party is pandering because they understand, like I'm saying, that it's that anti-corruption is in vogue, that it is the fad right now, that is popular, and they do this so they can seem different than Republicans, all the while accepting money at the same clip just like Republicans. And Pete Buttigieg is guilty of this. So it's honestly disgusting overall. But let's move on to a video of Elizabeth Warren talking about dark money, talking about unilateral disarmament, and I'm going to try to explain this in a short little synopsis of what exactly is wrong here. So I'm going to pull this video up really quickly. Okay.
I'm just going to be blunt. I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. We got to go into these fights, and we got to be willing to win these fights.
So this just applies to the primary. Like, were you to get the nomination, or anyone else to get the nomination, like, just raise all the money you can, however you can.
Yes.
So does this only apply in the primaries, or will you carry this over to the general election or any other election you'll have going forward?
So this is for primaries. Look, I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. We need a lot of power, a lot of dark money, a lot of super PACs, all to the fight. We play by the same rules. And in that one, I say we got to be all in.
Yep, we play by the same rules. This is Warren, who has tried to cast herself as a progressive, as trying to mimic or be the mirror image of Bernie Sanders. So I'm going to give you some context about those videos. Those videos came out, I think, in late summer. This is when Warren was surging, and or around the mid of her surge in the summer. And basically, Warren there was saying that she will take dark money. So, okay, so let's back up for a second. Warren's position, like, until about 2 weeks ago, was that she was going to not accept dark money in the general, or super PAC money, dark money in the general or the primary. But previously in the summer, she was running on a platform where she was going to say, I'll accept dark money, or I won't accept, in the Democratic Party primary, I will not accept dark money or super PAC money or these other forms of corrupting influence. And then in the primary, though, I'm going to accept, but in the general, I'm going to accept dark money, super PAC money. So, but when you think about that, it doesn't make any sense. So if the issue is corruption, can you not be corrupted if they are giving you money in the general? Because that money that they're giving you is just as powerful in the general, if not more powerful, than in the primary. So the money that you're getting in the general will be just as corrupting to you. And if you are acknowledging that there is corruption by not taking the money in the primary, then you are doing this for one reason: to pander, to act as the mirror image to Bernie Sanders, to try to cast yourself in the same lane as Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders was not going to take it in either, and he still will not. But what happened was, in the summer, she did this to give the appearance that she was as progressive as Bernie Sanders, but this was not the case. So then she eventually switches her position, I think, a little bit at the end of her search to seem more authentic, because people were coming to realize, finding these videos, because these videos have been circulating for a while, they find these videos and they say, wow, that's really disingenuous. Those two things do not align, because as you watch the video, no matter what time you get the corrupting influence of money, it's a corrupting influence. So then she eventually switches her position to not taking it in the general. And she does this to then, again, to mimic Bernie Sanders. Now, a side note is that Bernie Sanders, even though he was not doing well in the polls, never attacked Elizabeth Warren on this. And that is something that goes down to his loyalty and his consistency and his values, is that they had like basically an agreement that they were not going to attack each other or try to kneecap each other. Yet Warren then eventually tries to kneecap Sanders with a sexist thing in January, and then actually attacks Bernie for having a super PAC, which he doesn't. He just has like one group was in support of Bernie that was a super PAC. It was a nurses union, but Bernie told them, do not spend money on my behalf. He literally told them, do not spend money on my behalf. And yet then a week later, after Warren then denounces super PACs and everybody except for her and Amy have super PACs, then she gets a super PAC literally like this week, which is completely just goes to show that this is all about pandering. This is all about showing that you are the most progressive, but until, wait a second, you can't be the leader. So even if somebody else is a super PAC, shouldn't you be the leader? Wouldn't it be great to be the leader and say, no, I'm not going to take this money? And that comes down to a thing with Pete Buttigieg, with Warren. These people are not leaders. Bernie Sanders is a leader, and that's why his movement is a little bit different. Because the claim essentially is that she says we need all we can get. We need the dark money. We need the super PAC money. We need this and that. And we need everything we can get. But wait a second, this money is corrupting to you. So if you're trying to go against somebody who is a bad politician, Donald Trump, or a corrupt politician, by accepting corrupting money, how are you gonna be one to make any claims about these things? It doesn't seem logical. So then essentially, like, it doesn't seem logical on its face. Now coming back to this is, okay, I'm sorry guys, I've already ran this like I already ran 25 minutes of this, and I'm trying to like get everything back, get all my thoughts oriented. So bear with me. Okay, so she's accepting this money, and it's corrupting, as I've stated, and then she comes back. So then she comes back into the fold and says, I'll take all this money. And why did she take it? She took it because her campaign was floundering. So she began to give up her principles. She's, like she said, she's just a player in the game. She's just this, she's just that. These are the rules of the game that were set. But the difference is you want to be a leader. That's what makes a good president. That's why you're supposed to be the president. You lead. And even if you cannot win without dark money, then maybe you should let somebody who is in the race who can win without dark money. And it's been proven. Bernie Sanders has a movement. Bernie Sanders is outraising every one of you without super PAC, without super donors, without super PACs, without dark money. Bernie Sanders is the one getting the most individual contribution, coming at $18 a clip, and by doing this, he has then disproven the model that these Warrens and these Buttigieg are talking about, that we need all this money. No, you don't. You need to galvanize the people. And how do you galvanize the people? You galvanize people by making it so that their voices matter and that they know that you're not being corrupted by these special interests. Because if I think that there's money going to be corrupting you, then why am I going to give money to you if you're getting all this billionaire money that my money doesn't even matter in the first place? And that's why Bernie is able to take in so much. That's why Bernie is able to take in so much money, because people believe in his movement. And so Bernie Sanders has already defeated the point that we need all this money. No, you don't. Bernie Sanders is raising this much money, raised $25 million in January, well in a primary season. And in a general, you're going to raise even more money because all the money is going to be unified around one candidate instead of being spread out between 6 candidates. So there'll be even more money coming in. There'll be no problem being Donald Trump. And even if we are underfunded, it doesn't matter because we have principles. We have integrity. We are not playing Machiavellian politics. The means do not justify the ends. I'm sorry. That's not how it works anymore. Populism is in vogue. And just because you're trying to pander to this populism by agreeing with Citizens United in name but not in practice, that does not matter. So I want to switch over to a video of Pete Buttigieg talking about Bloomberg's money, and then I'm gonna try to make this one quick here. Let's see what we got. So,
who you reject. Last hour, I don't know if you heard Senator Sanders, but he would not commit to accepting money from Michael Bloomberg. if Michael Bloomberg is not the Democratic nominee, right? He's pledged to help whoever is. Would you take his money and his support if you are the nominee?
Sure. As a matter of fact, look right now, obviously, I'm competing against Mayor Bloomberg. We have, I think, different approaches and different visions. But, his philanthropy supported a $1 million effort in our community to help low-income people get transportation to go to work. I'm not going to reject that help because it came from a very wealthy person. This is the moment to bring everybody that we can into this effort. And I promise exactly one thing in return for any contribution, which is we're going to take that contribution and use it to go beat Donald Trump.
So Pete Buttigieg is going to destroy his own logic momentarily later in this clip, but let me explain why this is awful. So Bloomberg, so he says right there that he would accept Bloomberg's money, a special interest. Yet at the other clip, he's trying to denounce money in politics. Yet Bloomberg is literally the epitome of money in politics. He is a walking special interest. So when he's accepting this money, he says, "Oh, he gave $1 million to my bus philanthropy." That's exactly the point of why he gave you this money. It's so that he can get favors from people. Bloomberg, it has been doing this in his campaign, which is crazy that he's allowed to do this in his campaign. It's flat out rigging, bribing, soft corruption, whatever you want to call it. Corruption is corruption, soft or not. He's giving out money to places, or he gives $1 million buys like he did. Like, yes, public transportation is good. That's a good thing that he gave money for it. But then he uses this money that he's giving to then buy undue influence. So he gives this money, and then he's able to then stay in the back and then do a carrot on a stick thing, like, oh, I have all this money, so I'm going to hold another carrot in front of you and get you to keep running toward this, and then buys influence that way. And then he's able to circumvent the aggregate limit because of McCutcheon, and then give money to this party, that part of the party, this person over there, and then by doing that, he's able to wield influence over people. And so then, but don't take it from me. Take it from Pete Buttigieg in this same exact video. Then we'll explain to you how Bloomberg is trying to buy an election. So let's just watch this crazy amount of doublespeak.
So, you talk about something he did in your community, but obviously Amy Klobuchar has said Bloomberg is, her words, she's hiding behind his ad spending. Elizabeth Warren says he's bought his way onto the debate stage. Bernie Sanders has accused him of trying to buy the entire election. Pretty simple question, yes or no. Do you think Michael Bloomberg is trying to buy the Democratic nomination for president?
Yes. Yes. I mean, what else do you call it? What else do you call it when you dip into your endless reserves of millions and billions and don't go through the process of campaigning in states like Nevada or Iowa or New Hampshire, humbling yourself, going into the diners and the back?
Okay, so right there, Pete Buttigieg himself explains exactly why you shouldn't accept money from Mike Bloomberg, because he's legitimately trying to buy the election. Like I was explaining, he's giving this money to all these contributions and to all these contributions to try to buy influence. And if he's trying to buy influence from them, if he's trying to buy the election, which you then just said, and in another clip you said that money is not speech, then how can you accept this money on its face? How can you accept this money when you know he's trying to buy the election? So and if you know that money is a corrupting influence, which you've already admitted to, then you understand that him giving this much money will then allow him to have more power than the masses that are within the Democratic Party or within America in general. So you are effectively saying that, yes, I'll accept his money, but then is he trying to buy the election? Yes. So I will accept his money, so I will allow myself to be corrupted. That is what you are saying. This doesn't seem to be logically consistent. This seems like doublespeak. This is Orwellian in nature. It's how are you going to be you're saying, oh, of course I'll take his money, but then, oh, of course he's trying to buy the election, but of course I'm against Citizens United, and money is corrupting influence. All of those points are contradicting. There's two on one side and two on the other, and they're at odds with each other. And you doing this, and he says, and I've heard other clips of Pete Buttigieg, I don't have them up right now, but basically where Pete Buttigieg goes, well, we need all the money we can get, Bernie, and we need all the money we can do to beat Donald Trump, and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, once again, there's somebody in the election who's raising more money and has more enthusiastic people that is not kowtowing to special interests, and that's Bernie Sanders. And there's somebody in the movement, which makes your point moot. You do not need these billionaire donations. You do not need to go to wine caves and to suck up to these people. You do not need to take money from Mike Bloomberg, who is obviously trying to buy the election by your own words, and then will obviously try to buy you, which he will obviously be able to do. He's trying to buy the whole Democratic Party. That's the whole point of the aggregate limit being gone, is the ability to buy a party. It's party corruption, quid pro quo through the party. But what I'm trying to get at, essentially, is that you are doing this in name only. And why are you doing this in name? Because it's popular, it's in vogue, and you think that people aren't smart enough to see that what you're doing is disingenuous. But that is disingenuous. And it really goes to show that you are not a leader. The whole argument, once again, that he's trying to make is that, well, we need the money so that we can beat Donald Trump. He's such a crisis. But part of the reason that Trump got elected was the appearance of corruption. Obviously, Trump is corrupt, but he made it seem like the rest of the establishment was corrupt, and he was right, they are. And by taking this billionaire money and kowtowing to special interests and having no principles, no principles, no solidarity with the working class, it just shows that he was right. And you're going to just allow him to get elected again. You are no better than the Republicans. That's why I never want to hear Democrats ever talk about overturning Citizens United again. You guys are the same people that are willing to take this dark money. You don't believe in unilateral disarmament. You are going to take super PAC money in the general. We had to do Machiavellian politics to try to defeat Donald Trump. Why? Except for, here's the thing is, if you are using the same, here's the thing is, if you're using the same means to overturn another system, those means that you use will then become part of the system that you are trying to change, or the new system that you are going to be a part of. So then you keep the corruption that was from the same system and you move it into this one. And now it's just that you guys have power. So how can I expect you to overturn Citizens United, or work to overturn Citizens United, or you to not use special interest or do the bidding of special interests such as fossil fuels, health industry, and so on. And we can even see that with Pete Buttigieg, who's taken money from the health insurance industry, and then you'll see old clips of him talking about how the NHS is the farthest left position, and then that we are on the right, and that the Medicare for all is the compromise position. Then he started taking money from these big donors, and he changes his position, seeing that the progressive lane was consolidated around the true and authentic Bernie Sanders. So a progressive champion, Bernie Sanders. So it's just so aggravating. And I'm sorry, I already ran this video once, so I'm trying to get everything back out. So if this comes out a little bit hastily, I already ran this for 25 minutes, but so we're already at 22 now, and I think we're doing a good job for the second take of being a little winded. But essentially, you see Elizabeth Warren, you see Pete Buttigieg, these avatars of the party, like essentially just these avatars that billionaires funnel their money through to try to gain influence, especially Pete Buttigieg. Warren's a little bit more iffy. She's like a creature of the Democratic Party, but like half progressive, but mainly part of the party, as you can see by her wanting to take delegates away from Sanders. We'll get to the super delegate hypocrisy once again later on. But what it really comes down to is being a leader and understanding that you cannot expect reasonable change to happen within a system if you are not willing to not play by that system's rules. If you are willing to if you're willing to take the hard road, if you're willing to do the underdog thing, do the right thing, and stand on your principles and your values, like there's only one in the candidate, even though one person Elizabeth Warren was trying to pretend to be like Bernie Sanders, but obviously with her taking dark money and her being against unilateral disarmament, then changing back and forth, flip, flop, there's only one candidate that is not going to bend to these special interests, and that's why the special interests are so afraid of him, because they know they cannot bend him. That's why the establishment is freaking out, because they know this man is real. The same reason we love Bernie is the same reason they hate him, because they know that what he speaks is what he will do. So what I'm trying to look for within the Democratic Party is leadership, and there's no leadership. It's just, oh, we'll play by the game, we'll do this, we'll do that, and that's the reason why you lost to Donald Trump. Because you are not seen as trustworthy people. You are just as evil as the Republican Party that you claim to despise. But in reality, you two are two wings of the same bird. And until you understand, until the Democratic Party understands that they can no longer do this only in name and only in pandering, will they continue to lose. But it doesn't seem that that's a problem to them as they look to steal the nomination from Bernie Sanders. But guys, thanks for joining me for this episode. I know it was a little hasty. The first run might have been a little better, I'm going to be honest. But I think this run was still pretty good. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you later.